Another mass shooting on Passover. Biden is still in the lead, though many think he will fall. Venezuela's got problems, and the Barr and Mueller debacle. This is Matt Field, and this is Ditch Your Political Party podcast. So again, I'm going to quickly cover something that is very sad, the fact of the matter that this continues to happen in our nation and across the world is really sad. That there was a shooting in California on the last day of Passover. There's another manifesto basically declaring white supremacy and the whole gambit. Now, we're not going to mention the shooter, we're not going to mention the manifesto, and we're not really even going to talk that much about it, because the fact of the matter is the more publicity things like this get, I honestly believe that it continues to encourage those that are sympathetic to this sort of thing to continue to do what they're doing. And I don't think that is a good thing, obviously. So, but I'm not going to discuss that as much, but I will quickly discuss the political reaction to it. And those that are they're prompted by this whole idea that we can take things like this and we can use it to our political advantage. That we can begin to talk more about the politics of issues, or we can, it's the whole idea that you take advantage of crises for your political benefit, which is wrong. And, shame on you. Those who are using this for political reasons, those who have promoted actions like this or anything similar, shame on you. Okay? But of course, it doesn't stop anyone from blaming President Trump, even though, honestly, if you look at President Trump's record, he's probably the most pro-Israel and Jewish president there has ever been in recent history. And the weird thing is, the one thing I will mention in the manifesto is that Trump was actually condemned in the manifesto. So for people to begin to think that this is all the result of what Trump has done is completely foolish. Again, they're playing politics, and it's just sad, disgusting thing that they continue to do. And of course, but then, they claim all these anti-Semitic things against the president, but then you have the ever so liberal and leftist New York Times, who is releasing very anti-Semitic cartoons with Bibi Netanyahu leading President Trump as a dog, and there's a few others that they would release, and they came out and said, "Oh, we didn't mean to do that. This guy acted on his own." Come on, that's why you have editors. He didn't just slip this into the newspaper without you knowing. So, this sort of double standard. Come on, guys, turn on your brain. If you are allowing the Democrats or the Republicans to whisper in your ear what you should think and what you should do and how you should react, then you need to stop, because this is complete madness. Okay? If you look at the facts, nothing lines up appropriately, and it even is more so when we get to the Barr and Mueller thing. It is even more so there, because all this hyperbole that takes place between the two parties, just for the sake of winning, just so that their team can win this go, is disgusting. Okay, we have real problems, and there are actually real solutions, but nobody's willing to consider them because, oh, that's too Democrat, or oh, that's too Republican, oh, that's too this, that's too that. A solution to a problem is a solution to a problem. So let's just get it done. So anyway, that's that, and disgusting for those that are using a mass shooting for their own political gain. So we're going to jump into things that aren't as disgusting. There's basically the world and their politics are primarily pretty disgusting. And, there are a lot of good things that happen in the world for sure. Unfortunately, that's not what gets headlines, and that's what we do here is we're trying to debunk some of the ideas that are put out there, because we use logic, right, and morality to determine what is good and what is bad. And hopefully that gives you a little bit of solace in the craziness that takes place here. But first, are you a business owner? Do you have inventory of a product or component or ingredient that you no longer need? Are you looking to liquidate that inventory and get that money back in your pocket so you can more effectively put it into your business? Now, right, you can do a write-off for ineffective inventory or lost inventory and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's not near as good as actually having the cash. If you are battling with surplus or excess inventory, use excesssuppplylist.com. They put the balance back in your favor. Excess Supply List is where you can list any inventory you have for free. So go to excesssuppplylist.com, click on Publish and Add for free, and get it done. You literally have nothing to lose. All it's going to do is take you through some steps to set up an account, and then you can list your excess supply, you post it, and you're ready to go. So excesssuppplylist.com, again, that's excesssuppplylist.com, and I'm being told that many new features and things are coming out for the company to more promote your businesses and to help get your excess out. So we are here to Biden. Biden has, as we mentioned, he already announced last week, he is still moving forward right now, and he seems to have a broad appeal. He is he's going for more the moderate stance. However, there are a lot of people criticizing him for the idea that for the fact that he's quite old. I mean, he's going to be 77 by the time he runs. If he does it full term, I think by far he'll be the oldest president that we've ever had in the White House. I could be wrong about that. But still, pretty old guy. I mean, a lot of people pass in their 80s, so it wouldn't be all that surprising if he did. However, he is a likable guy. He does. There are a lot of people that are interested in him, and rightly so, compared to what they have to choose from. When you got someone like Bernie Sanders, you got Elizabeth Warren, you've got Kamala Harris, you got Cory Booker, all these people who are going so far to the left that you wonder where they came up with all this stuff. Joe Biden begins to look pretty good. So however, he is in favor for those things that he's an appeaser. I mean, in a lot of ways, Joe Biden is similar to that of Trump, right? Because Trump is someone who does like to appease a large swath of people. The difference is that Trump will then, if he doesn't like what you're talking about, then he's just going to fire at you. He doesn't mind if he has enemies. Joe Biden does. He's one of those guys that likes to be really, really, he likes to be cool with everybody, right? Which is a problem when it comes to politics. I mean, it's good for politics, but it's not so good for actual solutions, because you find yourself in gridlock and you'll have continuous problems throughout the presidency. The other weird thing is that, Biden has run two other times before, once in 1988 and the other time was in 2008. And now, I mean, he's been in public life his entire life. I mean, you're talking 40 years, maybe 50 years, I don't know. So at what point is he actually going to do what he believes he's going to do? And that's the thing, is people put so much emphasis on the presidency, where the legislative branch is the one that holds a good majority of the power. Now, they're all equal branches, right? But you don't possess any greater power, essentially, in the White House than you do with when you are in the Senate. The only difference, the Senate or Congress or the House, is because at the end of the day, I mean, you still have to rally people together. You still have to get the votes. You still have to do things like that. But that's the same thing the president's doing. I mean, so really, the president just has more optics. He can influence perhaps some level of discussion a little bit more heavily. But the power really doesn't necessarily lie with the president. It lies with all the branches of government. Not to mention, I talked about this last week, but there's a lot that can be done on the state level and even the city level. There's so much that can be done. If you're, like I talked about last time, gun control laws. If you are really serious on gun control, don't go to the federal government trying to get gun control done. Go to your local government, because they're going to be able to affect change much, much faster, directly affecting you, than the rest of the world. I'm so perplexed by the idea that people believe it has to be federal. It's the same thing with marijuana. They go, "Are you going to federalize marijuana?" No. Why would I do that? Why would I make it legal across the nation for marijuana, when states themselves can do it? I mean, look at Colorado. Even Utah has done. I mean, they've done it for more of the municipal purposes, like California did initially. But I mean, now there are lots and lots of states jumping on board with the whole recreational marijuana type thing. So I mean, that sort of thing can happen fairly easily. Now, I don't know if things like that. I don't know if it can be effective. I see probably all depends on how the city is set up, but the fact of the matter is there isn't a huge amount that lies on a president, and it's very difficult for them to get anything done by design. So if you want to get something done, go to your local government. Okay. In any case, Joe Biden is going to he's going to beat the same drum that he's been beating for 100 years, and but he has signs of being pretty old, and people have their concerns with that. But time will tell. Guys like that, they're all if they've been in public life like that, somehow they've been able to figure out a way to really manage their energy and be effective. So I don't think that disqualifies him, but he is pretty old, and it could I guarantee it'll come up when they start doing debates. So, but Biden's still in the lead. They had thought that a lot of people thought that his first day would be his best day, but he continues to stay there, and I think he'll be there for a little bit longer. But even though there's a lot of similarities between this race and the Republican race in 2016, I don't know how much different it's going to be. You might very likely have the most establishment candidate, unless someone else gets in. The thing about Trump when they were going in the Republican race is that it took him a little bit longer to get into the race, and you had people like Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio and some of these guys that have been around for a little while, particularly Jeb Bush, and they had a lot of money behind them. And so they did a lot of talking, they were ready to go, yada yada, but of course Trump blew it up. But Trump is an anomaly. And I don't think they have that going for them in the Democratic Party. So I don't know. I honestly think it's going to fall to establishment type figures unless Bernie really is able to pick up some steam. But there's no way honestly, there's no way Bernie's going to win a general election. That's my personal opinion. But if you look, people that, for some reason, there are a lot of millennials that trend towards the whole idea of socialism. And maybe it's because they don't understand it. But the rest of them, the older folks, they think it's a bad idea. They don't want to go socialistic, right? And you'll see, Elizabeth Warren's probably the best example. She's going back and forth, sliding all over the place, doesn't know where she stands. She'll go super far left, and then she'll go to the center. Then she'll go to the center. And then she just kind of goes back and forth. She doesn't know where she wants to be because she's trying to figure out where the votes are. And so, on her staff, I don't know, whatever you call it, whatever you want, but at the end of the day, she has to be more effective in her delivering a message, and nobody knows where she stands. And I think that's generally the issue with the majority of candidates. When they are unable to pick a stance and maintain that stance, it's just impossible. It's impossible for someone like me to vote for them because I have no idea where they stand. And if they're going to change their stance, like a Kamala Harris, one day she says, let's have the discussion of having these these incarcerated people vote, and then the very next day she says, no, we shouldn't do that. Come on. You're just playing politics, and that's nobody likes that. If you're a Kamala Harris fan, then again it kind of comes back to the whole idea. It's like it's the halo effect again. You look at Michael Jackson, you look at Tiger Woods, and at first when people start talking about these bad things that you had done, and you're like, oh no, Tiger wouldn't do that. Oh no, Michael Jackson wouldn't do that. And then before too long you find out they are true, then you're like, whoa, that's crazy. How could they do that? The thing with politics, though, is that things move so quickly and they don't focus on the same thing for too long. And so if you have someone contradicting each other and contradicting over and over and over again, it gets buried by the news cycle, and particularly the mainstream news cycle. So if that happens over and over and over again and it just gets brushed over, you're going to justify those different things for your candidate, right? So again, when you're choosing a candidate, if it's in the same party, obviously, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to determine between the individuals if you aren't thinking logically. So again, it's all about kicking those shoulder devils and angels off your shoulders and beginning to think more effectively on your own, not letting them dictate how that works. So, we'll jump into Venezuela, and then we'll get on the bar and Mueller report. Before we do that, have you struggled at all with autoimmune disease? There is a company called Autoimmune Health and Nutrition, and they do paleo, keto, AIP, and SCD type supplements. And it's based around the whole idea that you're able to heal your body holistically. Now, they don't claim any magical things that you can do. All they do is create supplements to help cater to specific diets, specifically the autoimmune, paleo diet, and the specific carbohydrate diet. Autoimmune health and nutrition started when a sister educated a brother and a brother helped a sister. Their line of 100% AIP, paleo, keto, SCD proteins are #1 on the market, and they're the cleanest option out there, and they taste great. So go to autoimmunehn.com, use promo code DYPP at checkout to get 20% off your entire order. If you are tired of the conventional way of healing, let Autoimmune Health and Nutrition help you along the holistic path. Go to autoimmunehn.com, use DYPP at checkout. Again, that's autoimmunehn.com, autoimmunehn as in health and nutrition.com. Use DYPP at checkout for 20% off your order. So Venezuela is having a difficult time. They're doing the same thing that they've done in the past. There's an uprising, and the president is trying to do his very best, Nicolas Maduro, to maintain power. He had a good number of people that were opposing the Juan Guaido type rebellion, and he's talking about how they will not, they won't touch our Constitution. They will do these different things. Of course, Nicolas Maduro himself has violated the Constitution, and continues to do so. He wants to remain in power, obviously, as has been the case with anybody who's been the dictator over Venezuela. This whole socialistic type idea. Venezuela is one of the most oil-rich countries in the world, and they are trying to base their income of that on the whole socialistic idea. And look how great it's done. The average adult has lost 24 pounds due to this regime, and they're out eating dogs, right? If that is your idea of socialism, then get behind Bernie Sanders, because he's going to lead us all the way to weight loss and dog eating, because that is what's happening with Nicolas Maduro in office. And not just him, but the whole regime, the whole idea of the socialistic government. Juan Guaido is not a good guy, but he's still trying to kick out that guy. Of course, he may be just doing it trying to get additional power and prestige or whatever himself. But someone like President Maduro needs to be kicked out. He needs to be gone. The Trump administration has supported Guaido in his efforts to get rid of Maduro. Now, whether or not that happens, I don't know. Nicolas Maduro has had plans to jet to Havana to get away from this whole thing until things calm down. But time will tell how this all plays out. But it's not looking good. They probably have a civil war in their hands, and again, all because of this idea that socialism initially was going to bring them peace and prosperity, but it has brought them exactly the opposite. Ilhan Omar, of course, in all her brilliance, has blamed the U.S. for Venezuela. In what way has the United States supported Venezuela? Of course, they have put on sanctions and different things like that because they wanted to prevent them from doing this sort of thing. And again, those that aren't familiar with sanctions, it's the U.S., because of their capitalistic model and the fact that we control, so much commerce across the world, gives them the ability to kind of hold up that commerce and for political purposes. And so that's what's happened here. It's the same thing that happened in Israel, or not Israel, but the Middle East and different things there. So Iraq is what I meant to say. So this is Ilhan Omar, she's blaming the U.S. for this sort of thing, and it's kind of the same idea of everyone else blaming Trump for the shooting in California on Passover. So the relation is very, very vague. It's very, very it's not consistent, and it doesn't make any sense. And that's kind of, those that are thick in the politics, that's basically their motto. Confuse the people, lead them the way you want them to, and then capitalize. That's essentially all they do, and that's what Ilhan Omar is doing. She's not a very good politician. I don't know what she's doing in there. She represents, the only thing she represents is the Muslim community, but that's just because she is Muslim. But she's not doing anything that necessarily represents them, just that she is, right? It's like the same as if Mitt Romney went in there to represent the LDS faith, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but he didn't. He wasn't going in there for that. He was going in there for the whole idea of probably, well, I mean, I can't speak for Mitt Romney, but in any case, what we have to do as a politician is that when you go in, you have to follow logical principles. And again, as we've mentioned time and time again, those principles are they sustainable? Is what you're proposing and everything you're doing is actually sustainable? And most of the things being presented in Congress and things like that are not. They are not. I mean, just the first thing happens at the beginning of the year. What is it? It's a budget deal, right? They're passing the budget. Is it sustainable? No, it's not. It hasn't been sustainable for years. Not even close. And then all these other laws that they try to follow them with, like healthcare for all. Is it sustainable? No. Just saw something the other day. It's going to cost $34 trillion or so over the next 10 years. And right now, where are we at? We're $22 trillion in debt. And in 10 years, we're going to incur more than that. Not quite double, almost double. Like, what are we doing? And then we've got another $200+ trillion sitting in liability. So it doesn't make any sense. Again, this is the whole idea of logical principles. So is it sustainable? Nothing currently there might be a few things here and there that are sustainable that the federal government has done and some of the state governments have done, but not to a great degree. Then you have to apply whatever they're advocating for in the extreme. Now, what was recently what they've been talking about recently is the all healthcare for all, right? Basically expanding Medicare. And that whole idea is going to cost a ton of money, which of course is not sustainable. When that's applied in the extreme, this is what happens. It's the same thing that happens in Canada and has already been happening in our country. Okay, there are different elements of Obamacare that have been employed, and it shows all the different things it's going to cover. Now, those things, the bulk of the things that are going to be covered are already covered by private insurance. The difference is there was somebody that had a rare disease here in the United States, and they had experienced long wait times and rationing of care, which is exactly what happened in Europe. It happens in European countries and happens in Canadian countries. Now, hey, if you're a healthy guy like me, if you're a millennial like me, and you've got a long road ahead of you, the idea of nationalized healthcare is probably a pretty good idea, because let's face it, you're not using it that much. But when you need to use it, it's not going to be an unexpected expense. It's going to be nice. You can go in. Maybe there's times when, you typically wouldn't go in, but you're going to go in now because you have that health care. And, that's fine for something very simple and very basic like that. But when you come down to those people that are going to get, the Medicare for all across the board, those that have the pre-existing conditions, those that have all these different complex conditions, you're going to experience wait times. There's a story of a lady who had a brother who ended up dying waiting for care in Canada because he later died, but he needed to amputate his leg, or he needed to get his leg fixed. There's an issue with the leg. They couldn't get him in. And so they eventually got to the point where they had to amputate that leg. And I think it spread to the other leg. And anyway, basically the issue is that when you decide to nationalize healthcare, you get rationing. It happens everywhere. So if you don't believe me, just Google it. Just Google rationing of healthcare in Canada, rationing of healthcare in Europe, all that sort of thing. Rationing and wait times. And you will learn a myriad of information. And you'll begin to realize that, hey, maybe my politicians aren't telling me exactly what is right. Okay, have you ever been in one of those situations where what the person is saying, you're just taking it verbatim because you trust them or whatever? Right? Maybe that's the case with me, but I don't encourage that. So anyway, if I'm saying something and you don't agree with what I'm saying, or you're just believing it for no reason whatsoever except for the fact that I'm saying it, and then you're regurgitating that to your friends, that is terrible. Okay? You should cross-check all the information that's being delivered to you whenever you're working on it. I've been in a lot of different situations where people have said something and didn't seem right, and so I looked it up, turned out they were wrong. Okay, so you have to watch your own back. People are going to say what they understand. And if what they understand isn't right and you believe it, then you're in the wrong. You have no excuse. So, again, the logical side of things. Oh, sorry. The last thing on that is when it comes to logic, who does it benefit? It can't be one party or individual, nor at the expense of another. So it has to be, especially in the federal aspect, it should affect the entire populace. Okay? It should be at the benefit of the entire populace, or at least the majority by far. And that doesn't happen at all, very often at all, unfortunately, in our federal government. Anyways, okay, so we're going to get on to some crazy things going on with the Mueller report, and then we will send you on your way. Mueller was upset at the beginning of the week because Barr, Attorney General Barr, didn't include the mood and the feelings of the investigative individuals in the report when he provided his 4-page report. So right now there is a contention from the Democrats that Attorney General Barr is doing a cover-up, that he is covering things up, but they can't point to what he's actually covering up, because this is what's happened. He gives his report, right? A 4-page report saying that there's not enough evidence to prosecute obstruction of justice against the president, and there's no sign of collusion with the Russian government, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government. And of course that puts everybody up in arms, and they're just like, well, we want to see the full report. We want to see the full report. And so eventually they're just like, okay, fine, we'll give you the full report. Well, he'd already planned to do that, I think, but we'll give you the full report. We just have to go through and redact some of some of the top secret information. So they go through that process, they redact some of it, they send out the full report, 400 some odd pages of full-blown whatever it is. Okay? So they read it, they find no collusion, there's no collusion in the report, there's no obstruction of justice. But the contention that Mueller had is probably because he's getting hammered right now, is that you didn't talk about how I felt about the entire situation. That Trump is a mean guy, he kicks puppies, and he spits on old ladies, right? Which he might do, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. But the job of the Attorney General Barr, is to look for prosecutable type things, right? If there's an issue, then he has to follow the law. He's following the law, basically. And the law, and this investigation was all based around the idea of collusion, and it's all based around the idea of whether or not there's obstruction of justice. So Barr didn't exonerate him from any crime exactly, but he said, I can't prosecute based on what evidence I have. So of course now everybody's going after it. They're trying to make everything seem like there's a huge cover-up. And it was interesting that there was this questioning and all this stuff going on, and you have Kamala Harris saying, well, Barr should have reviewed all the information personally that Mueller had put together before he should have released the report. And which seems a little odd, because Mueller was head of the investigation. He had tons and tons of aides. He brought all this stuff together and he presented it to Barr. And Barr said, can you make any recommendations to prosecute? And Mueller said, no, I cannot. And so, again, during this hearing, they're talking about it, and Ted Cruz is okay. I think he's got some good stuff. Sometimes he's not so great, but Ted Cruz is really smart, though. I mean, you gotta hand to the guy. The guy's he's clever. He's really good debating. Anyways, they put it out there, and he says, it looks like the only thing that they've got on you is is that they've got nothing on you. Is that they're whining about the report and the reports before them. Everything full view. Now there is some redacted information, but there are some members of that are on the Democratic committee that could see that information, and they haven't raised their voice. And so every single bit of information is out there, but the only controversy is that they're claiming that he's covering up a report that is fully public. So, Ted Cruz, I guess they don't have that great a defense. And so that's true. It's entirely true. The very fact that, if you're mad about this entire thing, if you wanted Trump to to obstruct justice, you wanted him to be prosecuted for obstruction of justice, you wanted there to be collusion, then Mueller, who is not a fan of Trump, and you can read that in his report, could not recommend any charges at all. Therefore, I'm not convinced that regardless of what the Democrats are saying or the leftists are saying, that what is happening with this report is wrong. Because I can review it myself and I can look and see if what he said is true. What a beautiful thing. It's the same thing with every single law that takes place in our country. The difference is, and what they should begin to do, is that bills should be very, very short, should not have any additional garbage or this, that, or the other. Straightforward, black and white, that anyone can read in a matter of, maybe 20 minutes or so. No more than 10 pages. Because the fact of the matter is really, if you're doing more than that, then you're kind of going beyond the mark. And it's the same thing here. Even though you got a 400-page report, there is the 4-page summary that not many people are refuting of what Barr has said. However, except for the Democrats. But if you really want to dive down and you really want to verify, then jump into the report and review it all. Towards the end, you're going to get all the stuff that Mueller and his team basically talked about how much they did not like Trump at all. And Trump isn't a good guy. I think that's pretty obvious, but legally they can't prosecute. So that's the way it goes. And then you just got silly things like Steve. Now everyone's trying to go after Barr. They're trying to discredit Barr, and I've heard some theories that they're trying to discredit Barr. So if they decide to investigate the investigation, that they can then Barr can't go after them either, because there's some fear that there may have been some mishandling of information or different things like that. I can't speak to it because I don't have any information on it, nor do I have any evidence of it. However, there is some talk about that. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. But that they're trying to discredit Barr, and so Steve Cohen, he's one of the Democrats, and he came one of the House. I can't remember where he's from, but he came out and I'm not kidding you. He called him Chicken Barr, and he brought some fried chicken and held up a model chicken and ate the fried chicken, talking about how Barr is a chicken. I mean, are you kidding me? What are we, like 6th grade? He's calling him a chicken. So anyway, he calls him a chicken because Barr doesn't want to come to another one of their hearings to do whatever it is that they could potentially try and corner him into something or whatever and try and get him to misspeak. And let's be real. What do they want to talk to him about? Everything that they want to know is sitting before them in a report. So I'm not sure what they're trying to do, except for do something politically motivated to benefit themselves in some way. I mean, that's really just the way you got to look at it. So there you go. That was our news for the week. Not as much news as you think, but based on the way people are talking about it over and over and over again, you would think that the whole world was falling, but it's not. Right? The Mueller report is nothing. There's nothing there, nothing to see. The Biden is just leading, and who knows what'll happen there. But I suspect he'll be there for a good long while. Those that are trying to take advantage of the whole shooting in California, terrible people. And of course, Venezuela has always been in the pits, and they will continue to be in the pits. So, like us, subscribe, tell your friends, and ditch your political party and stop thinking the way your politicians want you to think. All right, thanks, guys.